I am back again to your screen and to your faces on another episode of the Energy Show. So I'll say, welcome back to the Energy Talk Show, and this is a podcast where we'll break down the big issues shaping our world through the lens of energy, climate, and sustainability. My name is Tiana, your very wonderful host, and today's episode is a big one. We're talking about something that lies at the intersection of science, politics, economics, and global cooperation, and that is international partnerships for renewable energy development. Now, that's right. When we talk about renewable energy, we talk about the solar, wind, and the hydro, the geothermal, the bioenergy. We're talking about resources that can power not only our homes, industries, but also reshape the entire economies. But here's the key: renewable energy isn't just a local matter; it's global. No country can achieve the clean energy transition alone. Now, that's where partnerships come in. Let's dive into the part one, which is why international partnerships matter. Why? Let's start by asking the big questions. Why the countries need to partner at all? After all, every nation has its own resources. They are the sunshine, the river, the wind, or even geothermal hotspots. Why not just develop their own renewable energy systems? Well, the reality is this: the renewable energy sector is complex. You need capital, cutting edge technology, you need trademark power, you need supportive policies, you need global supply chains. Most countries don't have all of this at once, definitely. That's why partnerships are very vital and crucial. Exactly why partnerships, or what it allows. Now, partnerships allow technology transfer. Now, think of how Denmark shares its wind turbine expertise and countries across the Africa and the Asia. Talk about financial supports, renewable energy projects. It costs billions upfront. International banks and donor countries, they step in to bridge this funding gap. All right. Even shared climate responsibility. Now, the Paris Agreement calls for the global cooperation. Partnerships make sure developing nations aren't left behind. And we shouldn't overlook the political and diplomatic dimension. Energy partnerships often strengthen international relations, building trust and opening the pathways for trade, investment, and security cooperations. All right. Now, let's talk about the global examples of renewable energy partnerships. We are going to be citing that. Okay. Now, let's take a ground in this real world examples. Now, the first one is International Solar Alliance. That's the ISA, initiated by the India and France in the year 2015. Now, this alliance now includes over 100 member countries. Its mission is to mobilize over 100 trillion in investment by 2030 to scale up the solar power. The Africa EU Energy Partnership, that's the AEEP. Now, this initiative as well brings African nations and the European Union together to boost clean energy access. It focuses on knowledge sharing, joint projects, and financing renewable infrastructure. We're not going to be forgetting the Desert Tech project. It's a bold plan to annex the North Africa's desert sand to supply the Europe with electricity. While it faced logistical orders, it remains a symbol of how continents can imagine the shared energy futures. Another major one is the Power Africa initiative led by the United States. It has mobilized private, investment to bring electricity to millions in sub-Saharan Africa with a strong emphasis on renewables. And of course, we know our country, China, is a very, very big player in this through its Belt and Road Initiative. China has financed and built massive solar, hydro, and wind projects in Africa, in the Latin America, and as well the Asia. We are not going to be forgetting the regional effort too. In Latin America, partnerships like the renewable energy, the energy efficiency partnerships promote sustainable energy solutions across multiple countries. Okay. Now, let's highlight some of the benefit of this partnership. When you partner together, they are benefit, right? Good. So, what's in it for the countries involved? Like for the countries involved in the partnerships, what do they get? What do they get? So, let us break down the benefit. Now, the very first one is accelerated development. Now, countries can leapfrog traditional fossil fuel infrastructure and move straight into renewables. They just move straight into renewables. Another is energy security. Diversifying energy sources reduces dependence on imported fossil fuels. Okay. Another major one I love is job creation. From technicians installing solar panels to engineers managing wind farms, renewable energy creates thousands of jobs. You definitely know that, right? Job opportunity, you get to have jobs. Another is economic growth. Renewable projects often stimulate the local economics. It attracts foreign investment and open new markets. That's a benefit for the countries involved. Another is climate benefits. Of course, when there are fewer emissions, it means cleaner air and reduced global warming impact. Okay. Of course, we also have the social dimension too. Partnerships often include capacity building, training the local workers, supporting women in energy, and as well improving the rural electrification for communities that never had reliable power. This can be transformative. I mean, very, very transformative. Now, let's dive into the challenges. We have to be real. It's not always small sailing. Like, partnerships face challenges. They do. The first one is political instability. Now, investors don't worry about the coups, the elections, or shifting government policies. Okay. Another is financing of risks. Some projects saddle poorer nations with heavy debts. Another is unequal power dynamics. Sometimes richer nations or corporations dominate partnerships, leaving developing countries with limited benefits. Now, another challenge is the infrastructure barriers. You can have the best solar farm in the world, but if you don't have a transmission lines, you don't have grid, the power doesn't reach people. So infrastructure sometimes can serve as a barrier, right? And then there's a clash of priorities. You placing them. A donor country might push for green hydrogen, while the host country might desperately need the off-grid solar for rural villages. This aligning the interests of both the host and the partner is not always easy. Okay. Now let's have the future outlook. So what does the future look like? The momentum is clear. Partnerships are expanding. They are expanding into new frontiers like the green hydrogen. Countries like the Germany and the Namibia, they are exploring joint ventures to export the hydrogen for. Okay. Battery storage. Partnerships between the US, the South Korea, and African nations focus on solving energy storage challenges. Smart grids. The EU is investing in projects that modernize power systems in Eastern Europe and Africa to undo renewable integration. Of course, we're going to be seeing more South cooperation too, where developing nations work directly with each other instead of relying on developed nations. For example, the Brazil, the India, and South Africa are sharing renewable expertise through the BRICS framework. Now, if we have an energy policy expert listening to me right now, I'm going to be asking this question. First one is, how do we make sure partnerships are fair and balanced? How can we balance it and make sure they are fair? Okay. The second one is, what role should institutions like the UN, the World Bank play in ensuring transparency? Another question for you as an expert is, can renewable energy partnerships reduce global conflict tied to oil and gas? To my experts. Now, to my listeners, here's a question for you. If your country could form a renewable energy partnerships with any other nation, who should it be and why? Who should it be and why? Send us your thoughts. We'd love to feature them in our next episode. Okay, I think I really have my lead to my next episode now. I'm giving my final words, my closing thoughts on this episode, international partnerships. So to wrap this up, international partnerships for renewable energy are not just about electricity. They're about collaboration. They're about shared responsibility and building our sustainable future. They're about turning competition into cooperation, not into challenge, but into cooperation. And about using the best of science, the best of finance, and the best of diplomacy to solve one of the humanity's greatest challenge, which is the renewable. It's a wrap. If you enjoyed today's deep dive, please subscribe, share, and leave us a review. And remember, the future of energy isn't just national. Nah, it's not beyond. It's not Nigeria. It's global. Okay. Now, thanks for joining us on the Energy Talk Show today on this episode. Until next time, keep thinking green. Keep thinking green. You're gonna see me on your screen in my next episode. My name is Tiana, and this is me saying peace out.